Hello contestants, and welcome to video 3 of 4 of how to mod Fear and Hunger Termina. If you've survived this long, congratulations. If not, you've probably gotten killed by Tanaka, which is pretty sad. But in this video, we're going to go over how to create your own custom enemy from start to finish. From asset assembly to creating skills to making sure it shows up properly and scripted. I am not a programmer, but I managed to script an entire fight clean from start to finish. The secret is just copy and paste. That's it. Anyhow, when you first got your completed art asset, you're going to want to break it down into individual body parts. So your head, your arm, your legs, torso, so on and so forth. Unless it's a mob type enemy, just like the mob, just kick it out the door as is. But if it's going to be separate limbs, you're going to have to export everything separately. Do not resize the canvas, otherwise it's going to look goofy and it's not going to align correctly. So after you export all of your PNGs out, you're going to want to go to your Fear and Hunger 2 Termina folder, www, image, enemies, and drop everything in. Now, you could also go to the resource manager and import it into the file, but really drag and dropping does the same thing. So after you have your limb imported, all you have to do, double click, find your limb, and that's it. Name it in the conventional manner, like torso, head, right arm, left arm. And just treat that limb exactly like an armor piece. As you can see, it's the same exact thing in terms of armor. Give your limb an HP, and after you've added in, if you want your particular limb to be resistant to something, the defensive value, next thing you want to do is give your limb some actions, some skills. If you've ever made a weapon and assigned it a skill, just like my rusted claymore, I added add skill sweep. You're going to want to go to skills and just create your own skill. Treat it exactly like a weapon. You can either have it based damage off of a formula, which is your attack value, or have it as a flat value. Which is why the Heartless one always does bonkers amounts of damage. It's always a flat value. So treat it just like a weapon. If you want your thing to have status effects like chopping off limbs or bleeding, and the type of damage is HP or MP, and the element. As for the hit type, you really don't have to worry about the difference between physical and magical attack, because the element will be doing the heavy lifting. For streamlining sake, or rather to make things like seem appropriate in terms of design wise, I would just, if it's a magical attack, just for the sake of things, use magical, even though it doesn't matter. I don't know, that's just me. But after you have your damage type, the type of damage you want it to do, if you want additional damage to be stacked onto this formula, all you would have to do, type in a number, space, and there you go. It adds a 10 onto this formula. So after you have all that lined up, you can have it attack one enemy or all enemies, and how many times you want that attack to happen. As for the occasion, because this is a combat encounter, you're going to want to make it only usable for combat. So, after you have all this set up, you really don't need to add an icon because this is something that your boss character or normal NPC character will use. So you really don't need an icon. After you have your skill all set up, go back to enemies and just apply it. If you want to find it more quickly, just pay attention to the ID number 0831, for instance, and that will save you the trouble of reading all of these skills. All you would have to do is scrub down until you find a rough estimate 0831. Now, for the rating, this indicates how often that limb will use this skill. The game's original max value is 5, which is very often. I kept it at 5 just to make it in line with the originality of the game as much as possible. So the higher the value, the more often it will use. The lower the value, the less often. If you have two skills which are the same value, it will basically flip a coin and decide which skill it wants to use. Afterwards, always remember to hit apply and save. Save very often. I've had to do multiple takes this video because it crashed on me. So just be sure to save, especially when we get into the next part. Troops. So you have your skills, you have your art asset imported. Next thing you want to do, your art asset should be listed, which will be the ID number will be this right here. So for instance, 0730 troops 0730 right arm. But for the sake of things, yeah. So when you first do this, you do not want to add in your body parts right away. I do not know why. It drove me nuts when I was figuring this out. But your body parts will not overlap. And that drove me bananas. What you're going to want to do first, add in your gas canister first, which will be 0084. Put that wherever you want and right click appear halfway. This will make it so that until you use the gas canister item, it will remain invisible. When you do use it, it's going to pop up. I do not know why it does this, but you have to add in the gas canister first. Otherwise, your limbs won't show up in the right location and overlap. Now, as you can see, it looks pretty janky. The head is behind the body, the arm is misproportionate. It looks weird. When you look at this, it looks clean. But when you look at another version, it looks all kinds of jacked up. So long as it looks proper when you go to test it in battle, that is all that matters. Just make sure it looks how you wanted it to be. Now, when you play it in battle test, you might get some weird artifacts where the graphics of that limb might flicker on and off. From my experience, so long as you make sure that it doesn't happen in the full version of the game. When you hit play game and you boot up a save file, the weird artifact in battle tests doesn't show up in the full version of the game, at least from my experience. But it will require some testing and some trial and error to make sure that the limbs and all of that don't show up like this. So you will have to play around, and don't get too frustrated if it looks weird. Like, this looks exactly like this, except for the rotted torso, but yet this one pops up clean. So, after you have your character looking how it's supposed to look, next thing, which is probably going to take you the longest, is the scripting aspect. Now, it's not hard. All you're going to do, first thing you want to do is reference an enemy that you want your custom fight to be like. Like, for instance, my character is based off of a combination of Pav and the Heartless one. Both in terms of functionality. Like, you can only fight my character one-on-one on the game. So if you come at me with a party, I will not allow you to fight with all of your party members. It's just going to be one-on-one. That I will get into with the next video. But for now, what you're going to be doing, almost always, is just copy and paste. That is all you're going to do across all of these conditions. Talk, intern, gasoline container, everything. You're just going to copy and paste into your custom event fight. Oh, whoopsie doodle. Oh no, I hope it doesn't crash. Does it crash? Oh no, neat. Awesome possum. So yeah, all you're going to do, copy and paste. And you're going to want to edit whatever you copy and paste it into suiting whatever you want. So you have to pay attention, especially to your if-else statements, because when I copied and pasted this from, I think, the Heartless one, as you can see, so you can target the head, you have to knock out both legs. My number 6 right leg was, I think, my head or torso. So you have to double check and make sure that all of these limbs are the right limbs. As much as I want to go in depth about the entire process, really it's just copy and paste and edit whatever you copied and paste from. Like, this is a good example. If you go to Pav, you can see that his turn 0 has a forced action, which would be point blank. Let me find silly boy Pav. So you can see force action, Pav, left arm, point blank. I basically copied this event page and pasted it. I removed all of the stuff I didn't want. And yeah, that's basically it. Just copy paste. As for the custom BNG, you can just go into any boss battle or whatever from a separate character, copy that one line, paste it, and there you go. So besides all that, that's pretty much it. Just go find somebody that you want to make a fight like, and just go wild. It will require some trial and error, especially if you want to do fancy things like for instance the first strike, the forced action, or just like Jones on how I referenced All Bones Jones is based off of needles in terms of if he loses an arm, he plays a sound effect. There's a text command that pops up, and it transforms his non-sword wielding right arm into the arm that wields Blue Sin. Now you might see a control switch. The control switch is just to see if that arm, I mean really, it's just a conditional switch that until the arm is dismembered, it's going to keep using that arm until it's dismembered. And as you can see down here, I have forced action, right arm riposte. Let me fight this skelly boy real quick. This is where the trial and error is going to come in, especially if you're not a skilled programmer. So let's say I take out the left arm. There you go. And as you can see, he took out Blue Sin. I gave him a special effect because riposte is just a regular skill. And you can see he can counter all of my attacks. Just like that dumb bird person on top of the tower. So when you want to get fancy and creative, just look at an enemy, look at their event page, and just copy whatever you want into your custom event page. And that pretty much covers this video. So the next video, I'll be going over how to make a custom map, making a shop, and cutscenes, which by cutscenes, it's just a long dialogue tree. Besides that, I'm also going to show you how to export it, so you're not exporting the entire game folder, but only the assets you need, so that it's not chunky. But besides all that, unless you're Olivia, try not to lose your legs. Until next time.